Indian students have been forced to rethink whether they should study abroad in 26 or wait for a later year. This hesitation has come largely from two major concerns. The first is feedback from students who have already moved abroad, especially those who graduated recently and are saying that job markets are weak and opportunities are harder to find than before. The second is a visible pushback in several major education destinations against foreigners coming into work or eventually settle. Policy changes, tighter visa rules, and stronger domestic political narratives have all contributed to this perception. They are not imaginary fears. They are real, valid points, and they absolutely deserve careful consideration before any student makes a final decision about studying abroad. But the real question is this: do these concerns mean that studying abroad in 2026 is a bad decision for Indian students, or do they simply mean that students need to think more clearly and plan more realistically than before? Now, that is exactly what we are going to answer in this video by breaking it down and understanding what is correct. If you're new to my channel and you're wondering why I'm making this video, then let me introduce myself. My name is MANIL and I'm a study abroad counselor who has helped students study at top universities in the UK, such as London School of Economics, University College London, Warwick, Edinburgh, and so on. Now, before you assume that this video is about me trying to convince you that you should study abroad, I request you to watch till the end, because I'm definitely talking about who should and who shouldn't go study abroad this year. And in the end, if what I say makes sense to you, you too can reach out to me if you wish to apply to top universities in any country abroad. There's a link in the description that will initiate a WhatsApp chat with me and my team. I look forward to hearing from you. Now, back to the video. Let's begin by discussing why these fears feel bigger than they actually are. Right now, the conversation around studying abroad is dominated by anxiety, and there is a reason for that. Negative experiences travel faster than positive ones. A student who's struggling to find a job after graduation is far more likely to post about it, talk about it, or warn others compared to someone who's slowly building their career over time. Most of the feedback Indian students hear today comes from people who are in the most uncertain phase of the journey. They have just graduated, they're navigating visa timelines, and they're competing in a market that is temporarily tight. This transition phase is stressful in any economic cycle, but it feels sharper when economies are slowing globally. Add to this the role of social media, WhatsApp groups, and short form content where complex immigration and labor market realities are reduced to one line conclusions like there are no jobs or country X is finished. Now, what often gets lost is policy nuance. Immigration systems, post-study work rules, and labor demand do not change overnight in the way social media narratives do. Fear feels bigger because it is louder, not necessarily because the situation is uniformly worse for every student. Now, I want to talk about what studying abroad is actually meant to do and what it never promised. One of the biggest problems in how students evaluate study abroad today is that the purpose of education itself has been distorted. Studying abroad was never designed to be a guaranteed job placement program or an automatic permanent residency pathway. At no point in history was there a written promise that an international degree would translate into instant employment abroad. The real value of studying abroad has always been education quality, exposure to different academic systems, access to global faculty, research infrastructure, and professional networks that operate across borders. It was about expanding long-term options, not locking in short-term outcomes. When students evaluate a 2026 decision purely on whether they will get a job immediately after graduation, they are asking the wrong question. A better question is whether the education, skills, and exposure they gain will improve their career trajectory over 5 to 10 years. Now, when you look at it this way, the discussion becomes far more grounded and far less reactive. So now let's consider why 2026 is still a strong window for studying abroad. To understand why 2026 can still be a strong year to study abroad, we need to step back and look at how education decisions and economic cycles actually work. Global economies do not move in a straight line. They go through periods of slowdown, adjustment, and recovery. What students are reacting to today is a phase of tightening where companies are cautious, hiring has slowed, and uncertainty feels high. But education decisions do not play out in the present moment alone. They play out over several years. If you begin a course in 2026, you are not entering the job market immediately. You're typically graduating in 2027 or 2028. By then, economic conditions are often very different from what they look at the time of admission. Historically, students who enrolled during uncertain or slower phases often graduated into more stable or improving markets. Another important factor is how universities themselves operate. In countries such as the UK, Australia, Canada, and many parts of Europe, international students are not a small add on. They are central to how universities fund programs, maintain research output, and sustain campus infrastructure. Because of this, universities continue to actively attract international students even during economic slowdowns. This is why, despite negative headlines, you still see universities offering scholarship, flexible entry routes, pathway programs, and additional academic support for international students. In some cases, competition for seats is actually lower than during boom years, giving well prepared students better access than before. There is also a psychological advantage to applying during quieter cycles. When fewer students apply out of fear of uncertainty, those who do apply with clear planning often receive more attention from admissions teams and stronger institutional support once they arrive. So, 2026 should not be seen as a risky or wasted year by default. It should be seen as a year where careful planning matters more than blind optimism. For students who understand this and prepare accordingly, 2026 can still be a very strong entry point into the international education. Let's talk about the real reason many students still do well abroad, even in tough markets. One uncomfortable but necessary truth needs to be addressed clearly. Many students struggle abroad not because the country has failed them, but because their expectations and strategies are unrealistic from day one. A very common mistake is setting an aspiration of landing a full time graduate trainee role within 2 or 3 months of arriving in a new country. This expectation does not align with how most companies actually hire. Graduate trainee and structured graduate programs are rarely offered to people whom organizations do not already know well. In most cases, these roles are filled through internal pipelines. Companies actually prefer candidates who have already worked with them as interns, part-time employees, research assistants, or project staff. This allows employers to assess work ethic, adaptability, communication skills, and long-term potential before making a full-time commitment. However, many international students spend months applying almost exclusively to graduate training roles straight after landing. These applications are often unsuccessful not because the students lack ability, but because they have no organizational track record in the market. As a result, valuable time is lost. Students who do well will typically follow a different path. They focus first on securing internships, campus roles, research assistantships, or part-time positions that place them inside an organization or industry ecosystem. These roles may seem small initially, but they create visibility, local experience, and professional references. Over time, this progression from internship to part-time work and eventually full-time employment is what leads to sustainable outcomes. It is slower than the expectations many students carry, but it is far more realistic. The key difference is clarity of path. Students who understand that employment abroad is a staged process, not an instant outcome, are better positioned to navigate even difficult job markets. Those who enter with a clear step-by-step strategy tend to convert opportunities that others miss. Alongside this, students who succeed are usually very intentional about the skills that they build during their course. They choose programs that develop practical, in-demand competencies rather than selecting courses simply because they're popular or trending amongst peers. The focus is on fit, not fashion. Flexibility also plays a major role. Students who restrict themselves to one city, one employer type, or one job title limit their own chances. Those who stay open to different locations, smaller cities, or adjacent roles often find entry points that later lead to stronger positions. When course choice, skill development, and location flexibility come together with a clear employment pathway, outcomes improve significantly, even in challenging markets. So, what are the countries that still make sense for Indian students in 2026? There is no single best country for every Indian student, and that reality has become clearer than ever. Countries like the UK continue to offer strong academic brands and one-year master's programs which appeal to students looking to minimize time and cost. Australia remains attractive for students open to regional universities and long-term academic pathways, especially where institutions actively work with international cohorts. The United States continues to make sense for students who are targeting strong academic depth, research exposure, and long term global career credibility. Parts of Europe, including Germany, France, Ireland, and the Netherlands, offer value driven education, strong public universities, and increasing English taught options for students who plan early. The key is not choosing the most talked about country, but choosing the one that aligns with your academic background, financial capacity, and long term goals. So, who should consider seriously studying abroad in 2026 and who should not? Studying abroad in 2026 makes the most sense for a very specific set of students, and being honest about this is important. First, it strongly suits students who see international education as a learning and capability building journey, not as a shortcut to immediate employment or migration. These students understand that outcomes unfold over time and are willing to invest effort beyond the classroom. Second, students who are open to flexibility tend to gain far more from studying abroad. This includes flexibility in location, such as being open to regional cities instead of only major metros, and flexibility in roles where the first opportunity may not be a dream job, but a stepping stone. Third, studying abroad works well for students who are intentional about their choices. These students do not pick universities or courses simply because others are doing so. Instead, they choose programs that align with their academic background, career direction, and skill gaps, even if those programs are less talked about. Fourth, students who plan with a medium to long term horizon benefit the most. If you're thinking in terms of where you want to be 5 or 10 years from now, rather than what happens in the first 6 months after graduation, international education still offers strong value. Finally, studying abroad in 2026 is well suited for students who are mentally prepared for uncertainty and adjustment. Moving to another country involves academic pressure, cultural change, and self management. Students who are ready for this transition and who take ownership of their journey tend to extract far more value from the experience. In short, 2026 still makes sense for students who are realistic, flexible, and focused on long term growth rather than quick wins. So, now let's talk about who should pause or reconsider because it is important to be honest. Students who expected guaranteed jobs, fixed migration outcomes, or rapid financial returns may need to pause and reassess. Those who are not financially prepared or who are making decisions purely due to peer pressure should also take a step back. Pausing is not a failure. It is often the smarter decision when clarity is missing. So, how do you make a smart study abroad decision in 2026? A smart decision in 2026 comes down to asking better questions. Questions about course outcomes, university support, location flexibility, financial planning, and personal readiness matter far more than headlines or rumors. Avoid trend driven decisions. Focus on alignment between your profile and the opportunity in front of you. This is where structured planning makes a real difference. If you're feeling confused, uncertain, or overwhelmed by conflicting advice, You do not need to figure out everything on your own. I regularly speak to students who are trying to decide whether studying abroad makes sense for them, and if it does, how to approach it realistically. If you want professional guidance to help you make the right decisions in your journey to study abroad, you can start a conversation with me on WhatsApp. I can look at your situation calmly and decide what actually makes sense for you. Studying abroad in 2026 is not about chasing guarantees, it is about making informed, well planned decisions in a more complex world. For the right student, it is still a very powerful opportunity. Thank you for watching the video. Share it with a friend you think will benefit from it, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, you take care. Goodbye.